Welcome to episode 21 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, Chris is going to test my knowledge with the weekly teaser. We have the Premier League review, which includes 2 7-goal thrillers, a 6th winner in a row for Solskjaer at United. Chelsea failed to impress at the Emirates, and Spurs grab all 3 points with a late winner. We'll give you the highlights from all the EFL action over the weekend, and in part 2 we have our special topic this week, which is on FA Cup replays. So stay tuned to hear what we have to say on that subject, and we'll probably squeeze in an update on our predictions challenge as well.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here and Rich is here as well. Hello, Rich.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, mate. You?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
We'll ignore the football that's going on tonight.
Well, although for those of you who aren't aware, it's Thursday. No, we're recording this on a Thursday night. Chelsea are playing Tottenham in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. Chelsea are 2-1 up on the night, but it is 2-2 on aggregate, so it will be going straight to penalties if it stays like this. No extra time this time. They've scrapped it. Just penalties. So yeah, it should be interesting.
That makes me feel even worse. I thought there was extra time.
No, it goes straight to penalties. So, but
I'll close my eyes.
But we'll keep you. I'm sure there'll be updates throughout the podcast, and especially if it goes 3-1
or even 2-2.
No, I won't. No, there'll be no mention of any 2-2. Anyway, we are going to go into the weekly teaser, which I have got for Rich. Now, I have written this out, and I've read it a couple of times. It makes sense to me. I'm hoping it makes sense to you, Rich.
This is always a good start.
Yeah. So this one was actually submitted by a listener of the podcast. So yeah. So here we go. So who is the only player to score 3 Premier League hat-tricks against the same Premier League club?
So the only 3 hat-tricks they've ever scored against the same club.
So it's the player who has scored 3 hat-tricks against one club. He's done it 3 times, and that is a Premier League record. He's scored more hat-tricks than that in his career, but specifically, he scored 3 against this one club. I will give you a clue.
I need a clue.
So the club that this player scored the hat-tricks against, they are no longer in the Premier League. So there we go.
Thanks for that amazing clue. That really makes it a lot easier.
You know.
I mean, it could be anybody. It could be Portsmouth through to Bradford.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, but you're thinking of the player. If all you need to do is think back for a player from the last 20 years in your head that you think scored a hat-trick against one club 3 times.
Okay, I want to move on, but I've just got one question. The 3 hat-tricks they scored, were they all for the same club?
They were all for the same club, yeah.
Right, okay. All right, leave it with me, and I'll get it wrong later.
Sweet. They've been a bit too easy. I've been too easy on you recently.
Yeah. Just at this point, a massive thanks to the fan that sent that in, to the listener that sent that in. Yeah, Appreciate that one.
I'll reveal the person who sent that in when I give you the answer.
Okay.
They will be named and shamed. So we will move on to the Premier League review now, and up first is the first of the 7-goal thrillers, which was the early game. It was an early treat for everyone. On Saturday, it was the Wolves-Leicester game. Wow.
What a game. A game.
It's just obviously Jota scoring the hat-trick for Wolves. But yeah, it's just such an end-to-end game. And to be honest with you, Leicester had quite a few chances throughout the game, really, to score obviously more goals and obviously go on and win the game, but just wasn't meant to be. But
I think
great.
it could have ended any scoreline really.
Literally any.
And historically, the early kickoffs on a Saturday can normally be quite dull. I think, but I mean, this game was anything but. You know, both teams have got this sort of performance in them, where they just attack, and it's sort of that the attacking element of the game certainly far outweighs the defending element. But yeah, what a game! I think the one of the key things was the Wolves manager's reaction at the end. I don't know what you think about that, because you're kind of in that position. I mean, it's the winning goal.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt if you score at that time, it's the winning goal. But I know he has since been banned, but
he got fined as well, didn't he? It is passion, isn't it? I think passion just takes over you at that point, and the way that the game was going, you know, they went 2-0 up, didn't they? And then obviously Leicester got back to 2-2, then they would go 3-2 up, then it's 3-3. I just think it's emotion that plays a lot of that, and you know, it just shows that he's passionate, you know. And it's a well-earned victory, and you know, it wasn't an easy game, nowhere near an easy game. Like you said, it could have gone either way. So yeah, but obviously Puel again, his name came up before and after the game as obviously a manager that is under pressure at the moment. But to be honest with you, I think on any other day they probably would have picked up the 3 points there. So you know, you look at the league table, they're not in a bad position, but what's hampered them a little bit is, you know, they won the league a couple seasons ago, and maybe expectations are just a little bit too high. Don't know what you think.
Well, I mean, it's not often you go away from home and score 3 goals and end up losing. I think we can say the same for Palace when we talk about that. Yeah, a bit later, but I don't personally get the criticism of Claude Puel.
No.
I think he's an okay manager. I think there's been a lot in the press about his demeanour, and he's not the most excitable of managers, and he's not the most animated. But I don't necessarily think you need to be.
No.
So I think he gets a bit of a hard time, really. I mean, Leicester could be in a lot worse position with a manager. So every team's going to win games, they're going to lose games. It just seems to be that whenever Leicester lose, he's in the firing line, maybe a bit more than other managers are. Yeah, but I don't know. He's got a hard act to follow, really, with what Leicester did. But realistically, I think you could have put like Guardiola in there. I'm not sure he would have won the league with them. So
no. Anyway, we'll move on to the Bournemouth West Ham game. I think before the game, I think most probably on form West Ham would probably have been favourites to win this one, but you know, Bournemouth have been a bit hit and miss recently, but definitely got back on top of this game, and obviously some good goals actually in this game, Wilson and King. But West Ham, they struggled quite a bit in this game. I don't think they ever really got going, and when they finally did turn up, they just found it so difficult to actually string passes together and get the goal. But
I mean, I think I completely agree with you. I think before the game, I think West Ham, I would have had West Ham to win that. I think that Bournemouth have been a bit inconsistent of late, and West Ham have been playing really well. But there was a time earlier on in the season where West Ham pretty much did the same thing. I think they had 3 or 4 really good results in a row, and then they lost a couple of games that you would have expected them to win.
Yeah.
But I mean, team-wise, if you look at the team that West Ham put out, apart from sort of Andy Carroll coming in for an Arnautovic, I don't think it's probably that different to the side they've put out the last 3 or 4 weeks that's been playing really well. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit of an upset, I think, but that's not taking anything away from Bournemouth.
Good 3 points for Bournemouth though, and obviously they may now get back on track. But But even Bournemouth, they're in a good position in the league. You know, it's very tight around.
There's
Where
only
they
one.
are
There's
at the
only
moment.
1 point. There's 1 point
Yeah,
between Bournemouth and West Ham.
and it's
That's
only going to
all.
take another couple wins, and they're going to be, back just behind Watford again. So, yeah, good game. So we'll move on to the the next 7-goal game. This one was probably, I thought, a little bit better than the Wolves Leicester game. I don't know why, just because I thought Palace were actually going to win this one, which was a bit annoying.
I
But
think we were. Without sort of sounding biased, I think we were all
yeah,
sort of hoping Palace might hang on. The difference with this one for me is I think the Wolves Leicester game, sorry, was pure entertainment.
yeah,
Sort of like it reminded me a bit of like when Keegan was manager at Newcastle. The Liverpool Palace game seemed to be full of mistakes. Well, not full of mistakes, but a lot. Some of the goals, and
oh
it was
yeah,
either down to
yeah.
poor defending or poor goalkeeping, or there was an element of luck to it. Whereas I don't think that was the case in the Wolves game.
It's
So
it's the first time this season that I think Liverpool have actually looked defensively quite shaky at times.
yeah,
And then this is no this is not bringing Palace down at all, but Crystal Palace are not known for scoring a lot of goals in games at the moment. And to score 3 at Anfield is something, and I'm sure Roy Hodgson will take something from that game, even though they've lost.
well, they scored 3
You
at
know,
the Etihad, didn't they? Against
yeah,
City, was that
yeah,
3-2?
3-2. Yeah.
Well, there's two ways to look at this, and I think it depends on which sort of side of the fence you sit on. So you can say that Liverpool looked vulnerable in the respect that they were pushed all the way by Palace, a team you would expect them to beat.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's a game where they were pushed by a team that they should be beating, but they still won. So at what point, I think for Liverpool's title ambitions, it's almost as if, well, when are they going to slip up? Because even when they're involved in a game which they should win, but they're not playing as well as they can do, they're being put under pressure, they're
yeah,
conceding goals, yet they still win. And that's
yeah.
the thing. I do personally sort of lean more towards, crikey, when are they going to slip up? Because if you're a City fan
Yeah,
and you're looking at that and you see that either Palace have scored 3 goals away, or that Liverpool are down to 10 men, or I mean, Palace, well, I think they scored just after the half-hour mark, didn't they? And then Liverpool equalised not long, well, into the second half. So I mean, they weren't ahead for that long, but
awful guy. Did you see the Salah goal was just? I don't know what the keeper was doing.
yeah,
Like
but if you
literally, what
you listen.
mess!
You listen to a lot of Palace fans, and they won't say anything bad against him because he's been at the club for so long and
This
he's
is his
been such a good servant.
first game for a year, wasn't it? I saw
Yeah, I
on the
think it's something like that. But I did hear a Palace fan talking about when he made his debut for Palace, and he made an awful error in that game as
yeah.
well, and everyone was sort of saying, well, he should never play again. Like
Well,
tongue-in-cheek comments.
yeah,
But I think he's been there something like 15 years or
it's ridiculous, isn't
something
it?
like that. So I mean, but fair play to the fans. I mean, they won't hear anything said against him, even though
And
he's made a bit of a
the
howler. But
the the best story to come out of that game was the fact that Milner gets sent off by his old PE teacher, John
oh,
Moss.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
was classic. That was
that's-
classic.
I reckon John Moss has been waiting for that moment for a year because obviously Milner's he's a veteran of the Premier League now.
Yeah,
You'd
he
have to
is. Yeah,
say, and he's probably John Moss probably been waiting for that one for a while.
yeah, I expect so. Yeah.
Although it was rightly deserved, he was rightly
No, it was
deserved.
a red card.
It was
Yeah, it was a red
two
card. Yeah.
yellows. So. But yeah, it was a good game, very good game, and I think you put that in front of anyone that has never watched the Premier League, and they thoroughly enjoy that one. And
Yeah,
it was just a bit,
absolutely.
obviously after Milner gets sent off, Palace should switch off at the back a little bit, and obviously Mane gets through and scores the goal, but they weren't done perfectly. They got it back to 4-3, so another team scoring 3 goals away and unfortunately not getting 3 points.
Mm.
So Man United Brighton. So this is yet another win for Ole Gunnar. He's going to make himself some sort of a legend.
Yeah, it's getting a bit boring now, isn't it?
Silly,
Really?
isn't it? I like the losing games, but it's
they
Paul Pogba. It's just
they just look a completely different side. They just look so different.
it's unbelievable,
Where
isn't it? Like the difference in how they play, their attitude towards the game, and like I just said, Paul Pogba actually showing, that the money that they paid for him, that is what they should have been getting from the start. But
but I know I'm not one for the I told you so's, but I remember sort of sticking by Pogba earlier in the season, and I always had a bit of faith that he would come good. I think it's pretty obvious that the relationship he had with Mourinho wasn't healthy for either of them.
Yeah.
But I think that he'll make any team tick. I think whoever he plays for, if he plays well, they play well. I mean, it's 2-1 at home against Brighton. Not taking anything away from Brighton, but I think the way United have been playing, you'd probably expect it to be a bit more comfortable. But
yeah,
a win's a win. Rashford's playing probably, I think, the best football of his career.
They showed a still of it. I saw it on Twitter. Someone like froze their screen just as he was about to kick the ball in the back of the net, and it said, "How am I supposed to tell anyone that this ball ended up in the back of the net?" And he's literally got two defenders in front of him, the goalkeeper in a good position, and he still manages to get it in. So
yeah. The one thing for me with this game, and again, I know it was only 2-1, but United had something like 20 attempts on goal, and that's a stat probably taking you back to like the Ferguson days when your Giggses, your Scholes, your Beckhams, all those Van Nistelrooy, all those sort of guys were playing where United's attack was just unbelievable. And I don't think you would have had anything like that when Mourinho was playing. And you've got to think Lukaku's not even getting in on the pitch. I mean, he's on the bench. So I'd be surprised if he didn't get it. I'd be surprised if they didn't give it to Solskjaer full time.
I hold my hand. I didn't expect him to do this well, to be honest with you.
No, but it's just a bit of unity. I mean, it sort of says something about when they talk about getting some of the old players back and knowing the ethos of the club and that.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I've never necessarily agreed with that, but I mean, I think in this instance, it's certainly working. So, if you think where they were in the table to where they are now, I mean, it's a complete turnaround. And I think, like Arsenal in particular, I think they would have thought that United wouldn't be a threat this season, but now suddenly they're
chasing.
They're right behind them. I mean, it's only goal difference that separates them. So
luckily, Tottenham and Chelsea got quite a good goal difference compared to Arsenal and United. So hopefully we can hold them off for a bit longer. Move on to the Newcastle Cardiff game now. Newcastle, a good 3 points for them, I would say. A good win, but Cardiff's defending again has let them down tremendously now. The first goal, the Shah, he's a defender. He literally ran through about 4 players, Cardiff's penalty box, and just hit it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And no one even went to go and tackle him. It is just unbelievable.
I think one of the things for me about this game, and I did hear it said over the weekend as well, that it's almost like Cardiff approached the game as if it was a game against a team that they wouldn't beat, like where a point would be a good result. So say, for example, I don't know, if they were at home against Spurs, for example, and a point at home to Spurs for Cardiff would be a good result. They'd set up in a certain way and they'd sort of defend and they'd go on the counter or however they set up. And it's almost as if Cardiff gave Newcastle a bit too much credit. They thought that if they could go there and get a point, it'd be a really good result. When realistically, if Cardiff had have won, I don't think that would have been that much of a surprise.
No.
And I think there was an element of it of being a bit disappointed with how Cardiff played on the back of that. I mean, to be honest with you, if Newcastle score 3 goals against you, you've defended pretty poorly because they're not known
They're
for
not known for the goals, are they?
no, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just a bit disappointed with Cardiff. I think you're right in what you're saying. Like almost their mentality was, if we can get a point here, we've done well. And unfortunately, I think that they've just rolled over a little bit for Newcastle and made it a bit too easy. I think in the end.
Yeah, I mean, a point would have been okay. I mean, Newcastle have leapfrogged. I mean,
Helps them, yeah.
they're 2 points ahead, but yeah, I mean, I think we'll come on to the bottom two teams later, but I think Cardiff and Newcastle are in a fight. They're in a bit of a scrap, that's for sure.
The Southampton-Everton game, another win for Southampton. I think they are another club that's benefited from changing managers halfway through the season. But I'm sure you've got a few things to say on Everton, Rich, because you normally do. So.
I sat there on Saturday and I looked at it and I thought I called it. I called it on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
I said, although Everton they played Bournemouth, they're not totally convincing. But I bet against Southampton, they don't put in a performance and they end up losing.
And you were spot on.
Someone summed it up perfectly over the weekend. I just find Everton unentertaining to watch. I find them boring. I find them boring to watch.
They just
so I'd rather talk more about Saints just briefly, if I'm honest. I mean, it's although their form has drastically improved since the change of manager, they're still only 3 points out of the relegation zone. Now, 3 points is a buffer, obviously. I mean, they're not in the relegation zone where they were a week or so ago, but I think he's doing a good job down there. The players look a bit more lively, a bit more solid at the back. They seem to be scoring goals, which is something they struggled with before. But fair play to Saints. But yeah, I don't know. I could go the extreme and say, as far as I'm concerned, the Premier League's only got 19 teams because Everton don't exist. But I won't quite go that far. They're just sort of a nothingness really, sometimes.
Sometimes you watch games and it's just that I would rather watch Huddersfield than Everton.
Yeah, I don't think many people want to watch them, and it's nothing against them personally. It's just I just find them so frustrating. Every year, everyone says the same thing. This is Everton's year. They're going to push for top six, and they buy these players, etc. And it just never happens.
It's creativity with them. I don't think they have many flair players in their squad, and there's no one really. Sigurdsson is a very good player, and Richarlison is okay, but other than them.
Individually, they've got good players. Just collectively, there just seems to be something missing.
Anyway, we'll move on.
Let's move on.
Watford Burnley.
I don't think we'll be invited to Goodison Park anytime soon, Chris. I think it's what you were going to say.
Hey, you said it, not me. Watford Burnley. It was.
Yeah, let's move on.
It was an even game.
Yeah, just one thing on that. I was surprised Joe Hart was dropped.
Yeah.
So I think Heaton was back in goal, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's back from injury though, isn't he? I did say this a couple podcasts ago. I said when he comes back, will Hart get dropped for him when he's fully fit? And he answered my question now
he kept a clean sheet.
It was pretty. Watford played better first half, and Burnley played better second half. But
yeah, I mean the point for Burnley sort of takes them a little bit further away from relegation, but doesn't really do a lot for Watford. But yeah, it was a bit of a
0-0.
Not a lot to
You're
report.
always going to get one.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Oh, this is going to be fun. So the Arsenal-Chelsea game. Now.
Chelsea didn't turn up first half at all.
They literally went about this game the complete wrong way, right? From the get-go, they just looked so nervous at the back. David Luiz, I think he gave the ball away about 3 times in the first 2 minutes of the game, and I was not surprised that Arsenal went 1 up. started playing a little bit better, and then again, it was a bit of a lucky goal. The second goal, he doesn't mean to do it.
No, he doesn't mean to do it, but
Uh,
I mean, he's pretty much
Still,
unmarked
poor
on the penalty
defending.
spot.
How
So, I
many?
mean,
He was literally the only Arsenal player in the box. It's
whether
just
it goes in
unbelievable.
off his backside or his shin or his knee, I mean,
Yeah.
he's unmarked. So, I mean, I just what I'm interested in to get your views on is what Sarri said afterwards
Mm.
about the team being hard to motivate, and there was a lot of talk like sort of after the game that he's pretty much signed his own letter of resignation, if you like,
Well,
and that
I
that
just
that when you openly come out and because he's got players there that don't suit his style of play, and he's not going to change his style of play because in the past it's been successful, and
yeah.
he's
Well, I
playing
think
Hazard and Kante out of
he's
position,
taken.
and
I think he's taken us for him. He's taken a step in the right direction by obviously bringing in a striker that he trusts. Whether it pays off, Higuain has never played in the Premier League before. So, he scored goals in Italy. Some would probably say that that's not a difficult achievement, but I think we're going to have to wait and see if this pays off. Obviously, they've let Morata go. He's gone to Atletico Madrid. So I think they've made the board are obviously backing Sarri because he said that he wanted a striker. They've gone out and given him a striker. They've started offloading some of the players that he doesn't feel that are going to get game time and probably taking up a bit of the wage budget, i.e. Fabregas, Moses, both leaving, have left. So, I don't think that the formation that he was playing, he's obviously playing Hazard out of position, like you said, as in that false sort of 9 position. I thought we played a lot better when Giroud came on. I thought with someone to actually aim for in the box, we looked a bigger threat because obviously putting balls in when you've got Willian, Pedro, and Hazard, you're not going to win many headers in the box. Those three, counter attacking, we were good because we had the pace, but it was just someone there to finish. But obviously, going back to your original question, sometimes managers do come out and they say these things. He's saying that they're hard to motivate. Maybe this is one of those things where by him saying it, he's hoping that it does motivate the players. But I think that's going to be down to the players individually. I know, when Mourinho did it didn't end well. He lost half the dressing room, including Hazard, and obviously we had that really bad run and ended up finishing 10th. But I've seen enough. I think I've seen enough in Sarri in the first part of the season to know that I don't think I saw someone at the weekend saying he's the next VS Boas, he's the next Scolari. I don't think he will be. I think I think
I
they'll
think
keep.
if you'd said to a lot of Chelsea fans at this stage of the season you'd be fourth, I think they probably would have taken it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. We're still in the comp for the next 2 minutes at least. We're still in
Yeah.
every competition, that we've been a part of. I wouldn't, we had it pretty easy in the Europa League. I don't think, we were tested that much, to be honest with you. And in the league, we haven't done that bad. We have lost a couple games we shouldn't have lost, but we've lost against teams that you'd expect us to lose against. But then we've beat Man City.
I think
there isn't consistency at the moment, I would say, and I just think with Higuain being there, I think we've got someone there like Giroud who they've got, who they can aim for in the box. I just don't want us to be predictable. That's the thing. I think at the moment, teams have sussed it out, and they're obviously we've got Kovacic, Jorginho, and Kante in the middle. a lot of teams now, when they play against us, they make sure that Jorginho can't play those balls over the top.
Yeah,
His
he's been quite ineffective. I think he started the
it's because
season off quite well, but
teams have wised up to it. They know.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think personally, I mean, just before we move on, I'm not. I think the one thing Chelsea needed was a striker. I don't think there's any sort of
Yeah,
any doubt about that. Personally, I'm not sold on Higuain. I don't think he is as good as he used to be. I think a lot of what you're paying for with him is the name. And what I mean, if
yeah.
you look, I think of him in the World Cup. He was
31.
awful at the World Cup.
He's
He was
31 or
terrible. Yeah, I mean, age-wise, I mean, he's not at the end of his career yet, but he hasn't really done anything for Milan this season. I think there's almost, I mean, he may prove me completely wrong. He may go on and score 15, 20 goals from now to the end of the season and push Chelsea into Champions League.
I just think
But
they might
I
have been better
just,
off just getting him at the start of the season.
I, I think they would have been better off if Morata wanted to go, let him go, use what they've got until the summer, and then go out and get, because you're never going to get your ideal signing in the January window. But I would have held fire if I was them, and I would have waited till the summer.
Just a quick one. I don't know if you're aware, but Thierry Henry's been sacked from Monaco.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
He's been let go, and apparently
they lost it. They lost in the cup, didn't they?
They lost. Well, yeah, and they lost at the weekend. They lost 5-1 at home.
I did hear the guy that's favourite to take over is the guy he replaced.
Yeah, Jardim. Yeah,
anyway.
Go back. But yeah.
Okay,
anyway,
we better move on. We'll touch on Huddersfield, Man City
Huddersfield
quickly.
City, just a standard win for Man City. I don't think many would have bet against them not winning this game. You know, Huddersfield didn't really put up much of a fight. I think it was just an expected result.
Yeah, it takes me back to 4, 5, 6 weeks ago when we were just saying the same thing about City week in, week out. I mean, credit where it's due. I mean, they are keeping the pressure on Liverpool. I think I'm right in saying that there's pretty much every game from now to the end of the season, or a high percentage of them, either Liverpool are playing first, or I don't think they're playing at the same time.
No. Well, Liverpool have got 3 home games in a row as well coming up, because obviously they're at the start of the season they played away games, didn't they, for a bit because of the ground.
Yes.
So they've got more home games left as well. So.
Well, I mean, Huddersfield, I think, are in a spot above her now. I think there's probably some people that are saying that they're gone already, but
well, they haven't gone. Well, they have now. They've got.
Well, they have now. I mean, they didn't at the
Dortmund
time.
Under 21 manager or something, wasn't he? The
guy I thought he was the Dortmund reserve coach or something. I think the setup in Germany might be a little bit different, but I mean, good luck to him. I
don't think it will keep him. I don't think his main aim here is to keep them up. I think his main aim now is to steady it and just look to the
build for next year. For next year, absolutely. But
well,
I
don't think they'll lose many players. In all fairness.
No, I don't. I mean, I'd like to see him, if they are going to go out of the Premier League, I'd like to see him going out fighting, which I'm sure they will, because I like Huddersfield. I am a fan of them. I think they do themselves proud.
It would be a shame to see him go, but it's just a bit late now. But yeah, we'll move on to the Fulham Tottenham game.
Has this game gone to penalties yet?
They are in injury time. They're in the 3rd minute of injury time at the moment.
Okay.
They took the rent.
I'm not watching it, Chris, so you're going to have to provide updates. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll just touch on Spurs very quickly. Everyone thought that we would struggle without Harry Kane, and then obviously losing Dele Alli partway through the match as well. I mean, my quick summary of the game would be: I thought they played pretty well. I think they probably deserved to be ahead at half time. I think Spurs dominated the second half. I mean, they literally just outpassed Fulham completely. I mean, they didn't have the cutting edge that maybe they would have if Kane was playing or if Son was there. And I mean, Spurs are a bit short on options up front. I mean, I'd be immensely surprised if they do go through tonight with the
Well,
with
they
it,
did. He
with the
took Llorente off.
with the team they've got out. But
Descended.
I think. Oh, here we go. Penalties. I think Spurs deserve to win. I think Harry Winks played very well. The one thing with Spurs, yeah, but the one thing with Spurs for me is, isn't it strange how now? Well, I mean, I get it more than you do, but as a Spurs fan, you're actually disappointed when Sissoko's not playing. Now, sort of 6-7 months ago, you would have gone, well, I'm glad he's not playing. He's not performing at all. But I know he's back in the team tonight. But you actually, since he's come back into form, and all credit to him, he has been a mainstay in that team and probably one of the first names on the team sheet. But when he's not playing, especially in a game like that against Fulham, where you want someone to pick the ball up and you want them to drive forward with it, you really, really miss him. But the interesting thing with Harry Winks' winner is he started the move just outside his own penalty area. And then he literally runs on a curve from one end of the pitch to the other and manages to get on the end of the cross. And in Kudu's cross, I mean, what a cross that was. And I liked his tweet afterwards where he said, "Hello, do you remember me?" or something like that, because obviously he hasn't played for so long. So fair play to him. But yeah, a lot of people have said Fulham probably deserved it, but I'm the other way. I think it was a battling performance from Spurs, and it was a good 3 points.
No, it was a good win for Spurs. I think, mentality wise, obviously losing Kane, Ali, a lot of people would have thought it probably would have affected them more, but fair play. They came out.
Well, it's probably just as well we lost Dele Alli. Well, we didn't lose him before we did, because he got the equaliser, obviously. So yeah, but 3 points is 3 points. You've got to take it any way you can.
So that is the end of the Premier League review. So we're going to go straight into the EFL review. And Rich has got the Championship and League One.
Yeah, so in the Championship, it's getting close at the top. 2 of the top 4 lost at the weekend. So Leeds, who are top of the table, lost 2-1 away at Stoke, which probably is a bit of a surprise. But if you think of the players Stoke have got, maybe not so much. And 4th place Sheffield United, they lost as well. They went down to a 1-0 defeat away at Swansea. Norwich took advantage of those 2 losing, and they cut the lead at the top to just 1 point. They beat Birmingham 3-1 at home on Friday night, which obviously with the way the results went at the weekend, that actually turned out to be a pretty big win for Norwich. Middlesbrough and Derby, they make up the playoff places in 5th and 6th respectively. The form team of the Championship, Hull City, their winning run came to an end. They drew 2-2 away at Villa, which still isn't that bad of a result. So they stay in 8th. 7th place Bristol City claimed their 4th win in a row with a 1-0 away win at Forest, which is a really good result for Bristol City. So that was their 4th win in a row. I think so. That's 4 wins out of the last 5. I think the other one was a draw. So currently the table, only 8 points are separating Stoke in 15th and Derby in 6th. So it's pretty tight in the middle of the Championship. But at the bottom, normal service was resumed with all of the bottom 5 teams in the league losing at the weekend. Ipswich remain rooted to the bottom and 7 points from safety. They lost 2-0 away at Blackburn. The 3 teams above them, though, they're only separated by 3 points, so it's still really close for the other 2 relegation places. Rotherham are in 21st and Bolton are in 23rd, and Bolton lost 2-0 at home to West Brom in the last game at the weekend. So that was on Monday night. So yeah, it's certainly all to play for at the top of the Championship. That's for sure. The bottom, it's probably a bit more. Well, Ipswich especially, but I guess there's still. I mean, the relegation places, that there's sort of 3 or 4 teams that are trying to get out of the two other or the relegation places. So we'll keep an eye on that. So quite a similar story in League One. It's very tight at the top of this division, where there's only 5 points separating the top 5 teams. Portsmouth are still top. Sorry, despite losing their second game in a row, they lost 2-1 away at Oxford, who are just outside the relegation zone. So probably a bit of an upset with that one. Luton, they managed to close the gap. They beat 6th place Peterborough 4-0 at home. So a great win for Luton. But Sunderland, they again failed to take advantage of Portsmouth dropping points, because they do still have a game in hand on Portsmouth. But if they win, they'll go level. Yeah. I think they go level with Luton, so only a point behind Pompey.
I saw today that their top, one of Sunderland's strikers, has just upped and left. He's just gone.
Oh, is he?
He just said he wants to leave, and he's apparently cancelled his contract, and he's on his way to Bordeaux. Yeah. So, player power.
Oh. Well, yeah, absolutely. But that draw for Sunderland, they drew 1-1 away at Scunthorpe. It's their 4th draw in their last 5 matches. So they're not losing, but at the same time, they just can't seem to win. So, yeah, I mean, these are results they may come to regret later in the season. Charlton and Barnsley are 4th and 5th, so they're in the playoff places, and they both picked up wins at the weekend, with Charlton scoring a penalty in the last minute to grab a 1-0 win at home to Accrington. Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video of the celebration?
Is it? I don't think I have. Have I?
Right. So, they get a penalty in the last minute, and the Charlton player scores, and then some of the fans.
Oh, does he get injured?
One of the fans sort of is running up to him and slips.
I have seen it. Yeah. I didn't realise it was that game, but yeah,
his foot ends up in a rather compromising position. Anyway, he sort of takes him out. Yeah. So, yeah, and Peterborough make up the final playoff spot in 6th, but as mentioned, they lost. They went down 4-0 away at Luton. At the bottom, all of the 3 teams, the bottom 3 teams all lost, meaning Wimbledon are now 7 points from safety after Oxford's win. Bradford and Bristol Rovers are only 4 and 5 points respectively above Wimbledon. And Plymouth make up the relegation places, but they did claim their 3rd win in a row with a 2-1 home win against Coventry, meaning they're now level with Oxford. But I think Plymouth actually played midweek as well, and I think they won again.
Yeah, I know there were some. I know a lot of the teams that were in the FA Cup a couple of weeks back, I think have played this week.
I'm sure.
Yeovil played against Lincoln. So.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was 2 games midweek, and I'm sure Plymouth won again. So, I mean, that would have been their 4th win. Yeah, so that's League One.
Okay, so going on to League Two, Lincoln.
Have Spurs just missed their 3rd penalty? I think they have.
I know it was 2-2 at the time.
Yeah, Eric Dyer's just missed. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
No,
Carry on.
Fine. Lincoln won at the weekend. They also won midweek as well. So they have got quite a healthy lead now. They're 6 points clear at the top of League One. They beat Grimsby, who were down to 10 men on Saturday. Bury have actually moved up to 2nd, so we've got a new team in 2nd now. They beat Forest Green Rovers 2-1 away, which is a good result for Bury, and it puts them in. They were 1-0 down in that game as well, so they came back 1-2-1, so that pushes them into 2nd. Mansfield also up to 3rd now, after they picked up some points away to Colchester for the game of the day. They beat Colchester by 3-2. Colchester were 2-0 up in that game, and Mansfield came back 1-3-2. MK Dons struggling, 1 win in the last 6. They lost again at the weekend at home to Crewe, so they are really, really struggled recently. They're actually down to 5th now. Carlisle moved above them with a 2-0 win against Cheltenham. Carlisle, the 2nd informed team of that league. They lost once in their last 9 games. So yeah, they're on a good run at the moment. Forest Green, who I did mention, lost earlier, and Colchester in 7th. They obviously lost. So 4 of the teams in the top 7 played each other this weekend. So yeah. But from second down to 7th, it is still pretty tight. There's only 6 points between them now. Now at the bottom, well, Notts County lost to Yeovil at the weekend.
Yeovil won again. Spurs have just missed their second penalty.
Yeah.
I think it's over. Never mind, it's only League Cup.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Carry on. Let's talk about Yeovil.
Yeovil won 2-0. They did lose midweek against Lincoln, but Lincoln are top of the league. But yeah, Yeovil picked up 3 points, which actually pushed them further away from the relegation zone. So yeah, Notts County rooted to the bottom. Now Notts County find themselves in a similar position that Macclesfield did about 5 weeks ago, where they're now 7 points behind 22nd placed Morecambe. But Macclesfield, I don't know, Sol Campbell, he's completely turned that club around. They won again at the weekend.
Chelsea have just won. Sorry, just live update.
Wembley. It doesn't matter. You play every other week anyway.
Yeah, he wants to play at Wembley. Anyway, Yeovil.
Yeah, I've done Yeovil. So we're on Macclesfield now. Macclesfield, Sol Campbell. What a manager.
What a legend.
That's it. They've won again. I can't believe it. They are literally now just 1 point off Morecambe above them.
Off promotion to the Premier League.
Yeah, they were literally 9 points behind when he took over, and now they're 1 point behind.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. It's crazy just what it will.
He's going to walk into any team now. Sol Campbell, you wait. England. When Southgate leaves, it'll be England manager. Anyway, but yeah, they are. They are playing a lot better now. And like I said, only a point behind, but it's so close at the bottom. Macclesfield 23rd on 27 points, and Yeovil in 20th on 30 points. So even though Yeovil have won the last couple of games, they are only 3 points ahead. And if they would have lost them, they would have found themselves in the bottom 2.
Well,
so I have to say. Well, I got the BBC website out, and it's literally kind of saying breaking news: champagne moment for Chelsea.
Well, you got to have a dream, I suppose. If the EFL Cup's your dream.
Oh, God.
Okay.
That's League 2. Right, we'll be back in part 2 with our topic this week, which is around FA Cup replays, a bit on predictions, and teaser answer, and what is coming up on next week's podcast.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Viewed from the Sideline podcast. We're going to touch on our special topic, which is around FA Cup replays shortly, but I'll just give you a quick update on predictions. So Neil was our guest from the weekend. Neil scored 15 points. He did win the round. He did. He was the only one who got the Arsenal-Chelsea result as well. And I got 0. A big fat 0, which is quite embarrassing. So as far as the table's concerned, it doesn't really change an awful lot. But we have got FA Cup predictions this weekend. So Aaron's our guest this week. The predictions have gone online today. And also, just a quick reminder, I won't reveal it all now, Chris, but if you remember earlier, I think it was in our very first podcast, we did our top 4 and bottom 3 predictions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna put them back out online, so everyone can remind themselves of what we said. Surprisingly close, really.
I tell you what, considering we're not doing very well at predictions, we haven't done that bad.
Yeah, I think
top 4 and bottom 3.
I think from a top 4 perspective, I think there's only one that I had in it that isn't in it. Obviously some are in the wrong order, and I think from a relegation point of view, I think it's the same way. I think there's only one team that we had in the relegation zone that isn't actually in it. Anyway, yeah. So we'll get that out. We'll post that on Facebook and Twitter in the next day or so. And then obviously we'll be posting the updates from the FA Cup matches over the weekend. We have got the Arsenal United game, so the results will start
Tomorrow.
coming in from
We've got
Fridays.
Sheffield. The Chelsea game's on there as well.
Yeah, we got the Spurs and Chelsea
Yeah.
games in there as well. And for some reason, looking back, I put Everton in there. Why did I put Everton in there?
I think you're just thinking about they're on your mind, Rich, all the
Can
time.
can you have someone scoring a negative goal? Negative goals? So I could go like
0, mate.
Like Millwall 2, Everton -1 or something. Anyway, I've got some good friends that are Everton fans. Actually, I shouldn't really say that. It's going to become a bit of a running joke. Anyway, so we'll move on to our topic where we're just going to talk a little bit about FA Cup replays. Not the games that have just gone from the third round replays, but whether it's a good thing. Obviously, it adds another round of fixtures to the calendar, as if teams don't play enough football already. So you've obviously got to weigh that up against the big paydays that the lower non-league clubs can get if they get a draw, and then they were to go away to a big side and things like that. But so I mean, where do you stand on it, Chris?
Well, this is it. I think this has kind of split me in a way, because on one, like you said, on one side, that I think replays will only benefit a lower league side. I don't think if you've got two Premier League teams playing each other and it ends at 1-1, I think the last thing that they'll want is to play each other again. You know, like you said, there's so, you know, especially teams that are in Europe, it's hard. You know, they're playing Thursday, Sunday, or Wednesday if you're in Champions League. That hurt me a little bit then, when I said that.
Not you,
but,
then.
yeah. But yeah, I think for the smaller clubs in the, you know, when you look at League One and below, I think for them, I think it's the money side of it that kind of takes over for them. You know, especially if they are, say, away to a Premier League side, and then they do get a draw, and then they take them back to their home ground. I think that incentivizes them a lot, especially the money side of it. But from a fan's point of view as well, not a lot of these fans will ever get to see Premier League players play, you know, at their home ground. So
no, I mean, I completely agree with you, but just as if you think the one that springs to mind that's just happened is the Blackburn Newcastle replay. So bearing in mind it went to extra time, so it was not only a replay, it was another half an hour on top of that the players had to play.
110 minutes to be precise.
So Newcastle picked up an injury. The substitute that came on to replace the injured player then got injured as well. So they ended up picking up a couple of injuries. And with the greatest of respect to both sides, I mean, I don't think either side would expect to win it. I mean, Newcastle historically don't. I don't want to say they don't make an effort, but I mean, they tend to field. Yeah, but I mean, they tend to field a weakened side, and so I'm not sure it's a competition they always take that seriously. But I know Newcastle came out the back of it and beat Cardiff 3-0, so it may sort of completely make my point void. But I think that's sort of almost a prime example where Newcastle are in a relegation battle. Blackburn are there or thereabouts in and around the playoffs, and I doubt an extra game was what either team wanted
and that's,
for a competition that, I mean, that's not their priority. And I do kind of think that you're right, that it is for your teams like your non-league teams or your Newport counties or your who's the team Brentford are playing? Barnet, sorry. So teams like Barnet, Accrington Stanley. I mean, for these teams to go and play the big clubs in the Premier League, that's probably where the replay is beneficial.
Yeah, well, it's two paydays for them, isn't it?
It is, but if you look at tonight, I mean, the fact that the Chelsea Spurs game,
Why
there's
is
no
it?
extra
Yeah,
time. It's straight to
straight to penalties.
penalties. I mean, I think extra time and penalties would be enough. I mean, if you look at the Saints Derby replay, which I actually thought was a
It
really
was a good
really good
game.
game,
Yeah, it was.
really good game, and Derby absolutely deserved to win that game. But the extra time was really exciting. I mean, the last 10 minutes of the game and then extra time. I mean, it was end to end. It was, and I kind of think that the first game could have could have could have ended like that as well. There was no need for the replay, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, you could have quite happily ended it. The,
Well,
the only the only slight disadvantage you get is obviously then there's a huge advantage on the home team because
yeah. Obviously,
even you get the
yeah.
replay, you're not
That's
you're
that's
not
it,
going
isn't it?
to yeah, you're not going to get the replay where the advantage switches to the other side. But I mean, is that a big deal or not?
No, and you think because they don't it's like the semi-finals. They don't do replays in the semi-finals, do they? They just do a
Yeah,
extra time.
I think that just goes to extra time and
Yeah.
then penalties.
So
And obviously, but I mean, back in the day, they used to
it's
replay the
the
final,
final.
didn't they?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
Chelsea were
I
involved
mean,
in one of them.
you'd never do that now. But
Mm.
I mean, I did hear that there was talk about stopping replays after a certain round, or one of the suggestions was, I think it was
Well,
from the
that's I think
fifth round onwards. That's
from a
you'd stop
fair point of
replays.
view, I think that they can. Um, like you said, if they stopped it from the fifth round, I think that's kind of like middle ground, isn't it? Normally the lower league teams would have exited the competition by then anyway,
Hmm.
and then it would help with fixture
I
congestion.
mean, just
And
on the
it's
lower
not
league teams, I mean, do they? Is it more beneficial for a lower league side to have a home draw or an away draw?
the thing is, yeah, I don't think it's really
Because
either way.
I
Because
always thought it was more beneficial for them to have a home
I'd
draw.
say home. I'd say home because I reckon if right, say Yeovil versus Manchester United last year, FA Cup third round.
United wouldn't stand a chance. The form Yeovil are in, would they, Chris? United wouldn't
Yeovil,
stand a chance.
that game got on TV on BT on a Friday night. Now, if that game was at Old Trafford against Yeovil in the third round, do you think that they would still be showing that game on TV, or do you think they would
Maybe not.
they
Maybe not so
go to
much.
another team in Yeovil's
Well, I
league
don't know. I mean,
below, and then
you've got two networks showing it, haven't you? So I mean,
yeah, I think that helped.
Chelsea are on BBC this week, and they're at home. So
If you see six
maybe.
o'clock Sunday evening, that game start. It's odd time to be playing, but
Yeah,
because they've
yeah.
split the
I
games up
did see
now,
it was
haven't they?
late.
But like the majority of the games used to be on a Saturday, but now they've kind of split that in half, haven't they? And I know they're doing odd games on Friday and Monday, but
Yeah.
they've split it up. But replay what I think what you said before about maybe stopping the replays from a certain round, I think would probably benefit the bigger teams and the lower league teams at the same time. If they are still in there, But I don't know if you know this, but some foreign, I know in the Polish league, the Polish FA Cup, they actually ask the teams whether they want to play extra time and replays in cup games.
Well, I mean, that's an
If both
idea.
if
I
both
do,
teams agree, if both teams agree for the game not to go to a replay and go to extra time instead, then they've both
I
agreed.
don't know. I mean, I'm not necessarily for that, and I think the
No,
reason
no, no.
is
I'm just
I'm definitely a supporter of knowing what the rules are before you start playing. I
yeah.
mean, I think you either do it or you don't. There's no sort of discussion about it. I mean, the other thing I think has to be taken into account, especially as we're going back into the European competitions. So I think it's a maybe 1-2 weeks of Champions League and Europa League start again, because you're in the FA Cup. So say for example you've got Champions League Tuesday and Wednesday. if you were a Champions League side and you were to go into a replay, when are you going to play it?
Yeah, especially
when are you actually going to be playing it? And it's to the detriment of that as well. I mean, let's just say, for argument's sake, that Spurs get past Palace and I don't know, United beat Arsenal and United are still in the Champions League, and then the two teams draw each other and they have to replay. Then it's just going to get very, very messy. I know there are open weeks.
Yeah,
but that's
Europa League, they have one more round than what the Champions League does, so they play back to back weeks, don't they? In the Europa League, they play on a Thursday.
Yeah,
and then
but there's like 600 teams in the Europa League, something like that. I mean, even our B&Q work teams in the Europa League, it's crazy.
But they haven't done very well, have they?
No, we got knocked out. We beat Chelsea though.
Yeah, right. But no, I think it's just the congestion for the bigger club. It's congestion. When are they going to play these games if they have to go to replay? But the thing is, they play these replays and they put a weekend side out because they've got all these other games, and then they get.
I was just going to say, do you not think a lot of what we're talking about is one of the main reasons as to why a lot of people feel the gloss has been taken off the FA Cup?
Yeah, come and think about it.
I mean, it kind of answers the question. I mean, personally, I would not mind at all if replays were scrapped. Whether you go straight into penalties or whether you go, I mean, I would rather go extra time than penalties.
Extra time because it gives you it. You know, you do get that 30 minutes of give it your all, and extra time is normally the most exciting bit. You know, the exciting 30
Yeah, no, I'd
minutes
agree,
game,
and I don't want it to sound like the lower league clubs are like charities and stuff that we should only have into replays up until sort of like the fifth round, for example. But I mean, the FA Cup is worth a lot, and the prestige of the FA Cup is still very much alive within the lower leagues. Maybe not so much in like the Premier League, for example, but from a financial point of view, I think the FA and the Premier League and whoever the governing bodies are around that, the money should be filtering down to these teams anyway. They shouldn't be wholly reliant on an FA Cup run to keep them going. I think there should be enough money in football for these teams not to have to rely on things like that. And it's not saying that just to justify the fact that I think replays should be scrapped. I just think it's one of the other things that we probably need to bear in mind as to when, as and when a decision on this topic would ever be made. I'm not sure it ever will be, to be honest. We'll probably just still be in the same position we are at the moment, but we'll see. But I mean, my view would be, I think I'm not sure the purpose they serve anymore for the amount of football that teams play. Scrapping replays isn't going to. I think if anything, it might enhance the competition again. It might be you're not going to get that second shot if you do draw. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, you're right. I'm with you. I think on this one. To be honest with you, I think in this day and age now, I don't think that replays really suits the cup. To be honest with you, I think most teams probably see it as more of a hindrance now, and it's probably why they put out weakened sides for these games. But
yeah, I'd agree.
We'll have to see because I'm sure the FA are going to look at it at some point as to what they're going to do about it, because like I said, if they did a vote on it, maybe that would.
I think you'd find different votes from different levels of the football pyramid. I think you'd have a lot of the Premier League sides probably saying they're not for replays, whereas a lot of the lower league sides may want to do it anyway.
I think extra time and penalties is
yeah.
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe someone of importance is listening, and they'll take our views on board. But yeah, I guess we'll move on to the teaser answer, I guess. And I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest with you, I've frankly got no idea. I think you should have picked a teaser from the Marks and Spencer sports quiz pack, Chris, like I did.
Just the yeah, but not all of us can afford to shop at Marks.
I often read the sports quiz questions from my sports pack as I'm drifting off to sleep. So based on that, I'm going to have to go for a relatively well-known goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a guess, I don't have an answer to what the club is at all. I'm afraid.
Need the player.
So I'm going to go for Harry Kane.
You're going for Harry Kane. You are wrong, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be.
The answer, I'll tell you the team. The team is Norwich.
My second one, I know who it is. It's Luis Suarez.
It's Luis Suarez, yeah. So Luis Suarez is the only Premier League player in history to have scored 3 hat-tricks against one club. That one club being Norwich.
You.
know,
if you'd given me Norwich, I would have got that.
Yeah,
because I always remember the one where
Norwich is the big giveaway. He scored from like halfway line, remember?
Yeah, but he faked injury, didn't he? He feigned injury, and then Liverpool won the ball back, and he miraculously got up and then got in position and scored. No,
so the person that actually sent that in was my dad. There you go.
Oh, I'll allow that.
I'll
allow that.
He is a new listener.
We should get him on as a guest.
Well, yeah, he's a new listener to the podcast. So,
is he?
Yeah, he started listening.
Welcome.
So, yeah, I know he's done predictions for us. Before.
Is he also a Chelsea fan?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, that invite is now being reversed, I'm afraid.
He's the reason I'm a Chelsea fan. But yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that is about it for this week. Just also remember you can get in touch with us through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the website, email. Just search for us on any social media View from the Sideline podcast. You'll find us there. So have you got anything to add, Rich?
No, nothing from me. So we will, as we said, we'll get the predictions stuff out over the next couple of days, and then we'll be back next week with a review of the FA Cup matches, amongst other things. Yeah.
So yeah, we will see you next week.
Yeah, I'm just going to end on a humble note. Well done to Chelsea for reaching the Mickey Mouse Cup final. Well done.
You said humble. That's
done.
No, that's not humble.
Well done. That will be a good final. City Chelsea. So fair play to Chelsea. I'll be a gracious in defeat.
You only lost on penalties anyway. It's not like
yeah.
Anyway, all right. That's it for this week. See you later.
Bye.